What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Part-Time Watchers podcast with Keith and Lorcan, where we talk about everything in the world of pop culture, movie news, TV shows, video games, comic books, you name it. And sure, we might talk about it part-time.
Part-time? It's becoming a full-time gig now. We're actually getting on a good schedule now.
I know, right? We're actually sticking to every Sunday.
Yeah.
We're being consistent. We're being consistent with the Instagram page. This is
a
whole new world.
All it took was a global pandemic to get us together ass in gear.
Anyway. And when we say that we're talking about everything in the world of pop culture movie news today, we basically mean we're just talking about release the Snyder cut, because that's all anyone wants to talk about, isn't it?
I cannot believe we're in a world where we're going to see this. This was a meme for the longest period of time, and it's got to the point where I am really this is one of my most exciting, most anticipated things now of next year.
I know, right?
I know it's going to be bad, because I know the things that they're going to include into it, and they're not it's not going to make the movie better. It won't, but I'm still dying to see it. This is going to be great. It's going to be epic.
I love it. You're it's going to be great and it's going to be epic, but because it's been, so the original movie was released in November 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So literally since then, for the last 2 years, we've been getting drip fed, oh, this scene was going to be in it, and this scene was going to be in it, and this scene was going to be in it, to the point now we know what the Snyder Cut movie is.
Yeah.
Even he's saying that there's an extra 4, it's going to be 4 hours long, and if you sit down and you piece together, okay, well, they said this was going to be in it, and this is going to be in it, and this is not going to be in it, and this was Whedon's scene, you can literally piece together exactly what the movie's going to be.
Yeah,
I'm still totally pumped for it and cannot wait, but I just think
Same.
it's hilarious how we almost know what it's going to be, but it's just seeing it is what's going to get everyone excited,
And also, let's not kid ourselves. I'll say about 80% of the movie is going to be exactly the same, maybe with a slightly colored or a slightly different color gradient on it. But the rest of the movie is going to be the same. A lot of the Ben Affleck performance is still going to be the same. The Gal Gadot performance is still going to be the same. The overall story is going to be the same for the most part as well. So I don't know. But
I would kind of argue with that though, because saying that the performances are going to be the same, the Batman performances, I think are going to be very different, because most of the Batman scenes we got in the film were not Zack Snyder scenes, maybe the action scenes, yeah, but the scene where that first scene with him fighting the guy in the parademon on the roof, that was a Whedon scene. That wasn't a Zack Snyder scene. Supposedly there's a lot of the action scenes that he wanted with Batman versus the parademons are kind of just cut and redone, and they're not what was gonna look like. I actually had I was commenting with a guy on a different post, and he said that if you Google or if you search on YouTube, it's Batman versus Parademons real fight footage or something, but it's two stunt doubles behind the scenes shooting what was meant to be the Batman versus Parademons fight scene or fight sequence, and it looks way better than any of the random, because most of the Batman scenes in that, the action scenes of Parademons, are just him kicking random CGI characters or whatever. Whereas you look at this and it actually looks like a real gritty fight. It looks really cool.
All right, well, that could be interesting, I suppose. But it's more the acting stuff I'm thinking of, when they're all sitting really sad in the plane or walking by the lake talking and stuff like that. I just feel Ben Affleck had kind of given up on the role at that stage. So, but maybe it's good. And I suppose I don't want to see those stupid quips anymore as well between all of them. I say stupid. I actually don't mind Josh Whedon. I love him for the first Avengers movie as well.
It's just completely different style though.
It's the tonal shift between what that movie was and even it is in parts to what Whedon done is just, it's all over the place. So it probably will be a better movie, but it won't be much better. So but at the same time, I'm still just psyched to see what the changes are, and maybe the new Steppenwolf as well. He's still going to be a giant CGI mess as well. But have you seen the renders of what he's going to look like? He's just a silver, messy looking thing. It's still not great.
He's still going to be a giant CGI mess, but it's going to be a different giant CGI mess.
And he looks slightly better, but it's still not great. So all the issues I think are still there, but it'll be just interesting to see what's put in, what's taken out. And I don't know. I was going to watch this movie again there over the weekend, and then I just decided that I'm going to wait until 2021 until I've kind of forgotten about parts, and then just watch it again and be oh yeah, I forgot about this, and hopefully be pleasantly surprised, but we'll see.
Yeah, so like just like watch, so maybe watch the released one like the week before the Snyder cut comes out, just to really see the difference between the two. I'll definitely do that actually, because I'll be
I
very
probably
curious
will.
of what the like exactly what the difference. Because even Zack Snyder's come out and said that he hasn't watched that, like the Whedon cut. He hasn't
See,
watched
that's
that
a
version
lie.
of it.
He 100% has.
Yeah, oh, done definitely. There's no way he's gone 2 years with all the hype and publicity around it and not watched it out of
Yeah.
curiosity. Like he's sitting at home watching movies now with people online. So
No,
like he's definitely been doing it
he's
as
been
well.
watching the Schneider cut. Like that's all he's seen is the
He's been
Snyder cut.
rewatching his own scenes over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, supposedly some of the actors are coming back to add in some voiceover stuff, but none of them, they're not coming back to actually shoot any sequences. And it's going to cost between 20 and 30 billion, or billion.
Billion.
Between, the movie's so bad they got to spend that much money on it. Between 20 and 30 million dollars for WB to get the VFX and stuff on point, because basically all the Snyder stuff was shot, but none of the effects or anything were put over it. I think there's like a report where one of the execs seen it and basically described it as it's like a car, but without any of the panels or the covers or anything. It's just like it's like you can see what it's meant to be, but it's not that yet.
Some of the clips are online, like the famous one, which is the Flash kind of sequence as well, where it shows the Flash with Iris, and he's like saving her from like a car thing as well. And I think that scene's all up on YouTube as well, and it shows like the concept is there and most of the kind of rendering stuff is done, but it's like obviously not movie quality yet, so it'd be touching up those type of scenes as well to bring it into it. I think for the sake of, we'll say 30 million, and then they could probably slap another maybe 10-50 million on top of that for some sort of like marketing. I think that's such a good get, like, because like if you're talking about like things to bring people to a streaming service, like if they had to come up with a brand new, we'll say like a new show to try and, I don't know, get people onto the network as well, or to sign up to the streaming service, it's going to cost them maybe like triple that or more. But like by just doing something like this that they have, it just appeases the fans, and like I guarantee they're going to see just as much kind of signups for this as they would have had for, we'll say, a brand new show that's not like you know, like a Game of Thrones like level thing. So like great idea, I think. Fair play to them.
And it's interesting to see which way they go as well, because even like I think Zack Snyder has come out and said like, oh, it could be a 4-hour cut or it could be like 6 episodes. I personally would rather just see a 4-hour movie like then and just pause it myself and come back to it if I want to, but I don't know if I'd want to watch like it broken down into 6 episodes, because like we've seen that before where TV, if someone adapts something into a TV show that should work as a movie, like it doesn't have the same flow to an episode, you know?
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see what way if they go. I hopefully they just go the 4-hour cut of the movie.
Yeah.
Do Lord of the Rings version extended cut and just have it massively long, and we'll watch that instead.
Yeah, and like the 4-hour stuff isn't crazy. Like, you know, there is, like the Lord of the Rings is a 4-hour cut, and then like, you know, if they're done a movie marathon or something like that, even if they're done 2 back to back, it'd be just the same length. So like 4 hours isn't outrageous, but like it'll just be a fun kind of, like, no one's gonna, you know, sit in theaters to watch this. So like I think if they want to split it up, they can. But yeah, just a 4-hour movie would be good. Yeah, I don't know. I am just actually pretty pumped for this. I'm so bipolar when it comes to it. Like
Plus, I get to see my favorite Superman and my favorite Batman back on screen together. Both of them are probably going to be versions in the movie that I don't like, but I just know that I love Henry Cavill as Superman and I love Ben Affleck as Batman. So if there's going to be different scenes in there that weren't in the original cut of the movie that was screened out, like I can't wait to see that. Well, even I think I'm going to have so much flexibility for their characters in this movie that they could do something completely against Batman, like the way that Batman would usually do something. I'll be like, oh, it's okay though, because it's Batfleck, you know, I'm just happy to see him again.
I'm definitely interested to see what they do with Superman in this, because he was awful in this movie. Like everything about it, like when he kind of just wakes up and there's like that one scene where all of them come together and there's like 2 policemen there. Like that whole scene is just so... like they just made an absolute mess of this film. So like maybe this will bring it out and people will be like, this is like, if this had come out at the time, maybe people wouldn't have been so harsh on it. So like it could be better. Yeah.
I'm very curious to see now as well, because this is going to come out next year, the same year that we get the Batman, like the Robert Pattinson Batman. So I'm very curious to see like how that goes, having the 2 live action versions of them in the same year coming out. Just to see like what the fans are like. I really hope people don't go into a whole like even we've been kind of joking around on the Instagram page, like, oh, which one are you more excited to see? But I really hope people don't just like pick a side and just blindly follow one side. You know, and they're just like, oh, the Batman's crap because it's not Batfleck. Like, give him a
Well,
chance. Like, give Pattinson a chance. He's probably going to be amazing, and he's going to be a different version of it. So it's
well,
okay to have two different versions of it.
those hardcore DC fans are gonna 100% do that. Like they go against each other for things like, you know, like the Snyder cut versus the Whedon cut. So they will 100% go against each other for like, this will be the Snyder cut Batman versus Robert Pattinson Batman as well, and they'll just go mad. But yeah, like it'd be still interesting. Yeah, you know, I don't think there'll be, well, there shouldn't really be any direct comparisons because one's like its own brand new film, and this is just like essentially a remaster or a revisit of a whatever 4-year-old movie.
That's a great way of describing
Which kind of it is, like a remaster with additional DLC content.
Yeah. Do you think now what this is the one thing that I'm just so curious to see what happens. Like, let's say the Snyder cut comes out and people rave about it and people are in love with it. Do you think there's any chance that we get like a Zack Snyder Man of Steel 2? Or do you think there's any chance that we get like Ben Affleck being like, oh, well, you know, if they wanted me back, I'd come back. You know, like, do you think there's any chance that the wheels start turning on the Zack Snyder? But remember, like, this movie's meant to be part 1 of 2 where it introduces Darkseid. And they've said they're going to have Darkseid in it. They're going to show him in it. And they're literally, like, the whole movie was meant to set him up for part 2. Like, do you honestly think that they can release this movie that's a whole setup to, like, the big bad, and no one's going to be like, well, now we have to see Darkseid? Like, how can you show us this and then not? Because this is almost like with the Snyder cut, it's always been like the tease of what could have been. When they release the Snyder cut, that's just full on teasing. Like,
but
I'd be shocked if they weren't able to do anything to like wing it together.
No,
like,
this is purely a marketing move. Like, it's just 30 million to get people essentially onto the streaming service. Like, if they were to invest into getting all these characters back and everything like that, they're gonna have to invest, like, we'll say 200 plus million into the film itself for something that kind of bombed first time out. So like, I really can't see them revisiting it. And like, Zach got his 3 film, well, his 2.5 films. So like, I don't think they're gonna revisit it at all. I do think potentially it might kick off the idea of bringing back those characters again, because like the way that they're doing it moving forward, or the way it seems like they're doing it moving forward, is that they're going to go all individual again. But like, they still have Wonder Woman there, they still have an Aquaman there that are all the same, and potentially even the same Flash. So maybe what they will do is that if this does do well, then they'll go back to the idea of the continuing the same plot point, but no, it's Snyder. I can't see that happening. I completely take your point, but I can't see it happening.
I'd be very surprised if they did as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm just so curious of like, will they, like, when this comes out, how difficult is it going to be for them if people are clamoring for a part 2 to just be like, oh, well, that was just a once off? Because it's probably going to be like, there's going to be a new hashtag, like, release Justice League Part 2, the Snyder Cut, or whatever the hell, like, fans start freaking out about, you know? Like,
I think if this goes well,
I think if this
goes well, I think this resurrects Snyder's career as well. And I think he's a fantastic director. I've always said I think he's a better cinematographer than he is a director. Like, I think when it comes to like the way his films look, like, he is one of the best out there. Like, he can just make something look incredible, and he's really good at like translating like fantasy or comic or something like that to a screen. But as a storytelling director, he is just awful. Like, I think he's not good. And I know that's different. I know there's writers and everything that play into it as well. But I think a good director can visually kind of bring a bad written thing to life better. And I think he's really good at like the visual side of things, like a cinematographer, but not so much at the storytelling or the way it kind of flows. But
like, I wonder if somehow they were continue with it, they were just like, okay, well, here's a good writer that will work with you on this movie. And the good writer is not David S. Goyer, because he is not a good writer. He keeps getting DC properties, and I do not know how, because he's a terrible writer. And he's proven that time and time again.
It's because of his relationship with the Dark Knight. That's totally it. Like, it's like 100% that was Jonathan and Chris Nolan, but like, he was on 100%. The cards of as well. Yeah, but he was on the cards too, and you're like, well, this guy done it too, didn't he? And it's like, turns out he didn't. But
he done Green Lantern though. Huh? Never forget about that.
Oof.
Oof. Woeful. But speaking of directors' cuts and people that want the re-release of their original movie, another DC property, another Warner Brothers property, came out the same year that also was a giant. Well, no, technically it made more money than Justice League, I think,
Yeah,
but
and it
it was
won
a
an Oscar.
and it won an Oscar. God, but it was a giant critical flop, and I don't know anyone that enjoyed this movie, and that's not an exaggeration.
So
So
this is Suicide Squad. It,
yeah, so
is
David
this some
Ayer's
type of
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad?
Is this God the worst line in history? I hate in trailers when, or even when it goes to the movie, when someone just has to say the line. Like it
Yeah.
just reminds me of Family Guy, where that episode
Ah,
was
he
like, "Oh,
said
he said
it.
it, he said it."
Yeah.
But yeah, so David Ayer. Obviously, we all know that when the Suicide Squad was released, it was released after Batman v Superman,
Mm.
so it also got the whole rebranding because BVS came out, people didn't like it, so Warner Brothers just totally panicked and just backtracked on all their movies. Suicide Squad was in the can, and they were like, "Nope, let's change it because it's too much
Oh,
like the movie that no one else liked."
yeah.
Now to be honest, I don't think if they kept with David Ayer's cut, I would have liked it anyway. But it just would have been more consistent
I think it
than
would have
what it
been
was.
better because I think the biggest issue with this is the pacing and obviously the way it's cut. Like it's
Yeah,
cut together like
like a music
horrifically.
video.
Yeah, it is like a music video and it's horrific. And like,
Yeah,
yeah, the characters are weird and comical and everything. But I think I actually would love to see this just as much as I'd like to see the Snyder cut as well. Because I think
yeah,
there's a lot
totally.
of
Yeah,
stuff on the floor with this. Like apparently what is there like nearly a half an hour worth of Joker material that are still in it. And I
yeah,
don't like the Joker in this, but I'm definitely interested to see more of kind of like the crazy stuff that happened. Like even if it is just a dumpster fire, I want to see more of what they done and recorded and thought was great. You know
yeah.
what I mean? But
But it's kind of it's very similar to Zack Snyder in the sense that like I look at Jared Leto as the Joker and all the stuff that they
mm,
showed in the trailers and how he looked, and they had
mm,
so much of it referencing back to the comic book, and there's that image of him when he's in the black suit and he's got the white
yeah,
face and it's all marked from like an explosion or something, and like we
mm,
never, and he's about to pull a pin
yeah,
on a grenade or something, and we never seen that in the film, and all that stuff was like, okay, I don't like the look of this Joker, but I also kind of really like the look they're going for in a different way. And I'm
yeah,
just curious to see what they do with it. And then in the film, it was just like a
mm,
jumbled mess where every time he was on screen, it was something completely different and had nothing to do with the story. It was like he was basically just like a Looney Tunes character popping in and out of the story just to like, hey, remember me? I'm the Joker. And then he pops back out again. It was so ridiculous. But like you said, like this movie, so they had a shot and then they went back, they got
mm,
David Ayer basically had nothing to do with the reshoots. They reshot a load of it. They got a company that makes music videos to re-edit it and make it more like, I don't know, fucking friendly and spicy or whatever.
well,
But it ended up just being
spicy.
a complete jumbled mess.
Well,
But even in this movie, they were supposed to have like some of the stuff that we've heard about the Ayer cut that I am hopefully, if they do go back and do this, and I'm excited for, is that there was meant to be a romance between Deadshot and Harley Quinn,
yeah,
which was part of the reason why the Joker got so involved in the plot of it, because he wanted to keep Harley, then he got pissed off about it and he wanted to get back at Harley. So he ended up working together with that crazy witch lady at the end somehow. But also then on top of that, Steppenwolf from the Justice League was supposedly meant to be like the big bad in the background that was controlling the Enchantress. So he was meant to be controlling the Enchantress through the mother boxes, and all those weird alien type creatures that she was creating. They were meant to be like early versions of parademons. So they were all going to turn to parademons. This was going to be like step one of Steppenwolf's plan. And then at the end of the movie, you'd find out that like, oh, that was Steppenwolf. Then that leads into Justice League. So it was meant to all tie together. It was meant to be way more consistent. It was meant to have like just so much more that made sense.
yeah.
But in the end, it was just like, just pretend. Let's just all pretend this movie never happened. Is essentially what happened. Like,
Yeah, and I thought there was like a lot of promise in this. Like I remember when the very first trailer came out of this as well, with the kind of darker tone, and I was really hyped for it. I think it was one of my most anticipated movies of like that year, which had one of the Avengers movies I think came out that year too, didn't it? Or something along those lines. Or Civil War came out that year, wasn't it? Civil War came out.
Civil War came out that
Yeah,
year.
Civil
Yeah.
War, and then Justice League both
No,
came
sorry,
out that year as well.
Civil War came out the year before, because Civil War came out the same year as Batman v
All
Superman.
right, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, but there was a couple of other really big films that came around the time, and I do remember this being kind of one of my most anticipated around that time. And then seeing the second trailer that everyone loved, that had all the big pop songs in it as well, which is the studio who actually cut together the final film. So they used the trailer essentially for it, and then it became a mess. So I wonder if the original tone that David Ayer done for this is like I suppose the darker one, and if so, then that could be really good. Like, you know, I do
Yeah.
think that the worst part about this movie is the stupid sort of comedic moments in it, and some of the best parts are like the weird horror stuff. So like all the
Mm.
Enchantress stuff early on in the film, the end is brutal, but like the early on stuff where it shows her when how she gets it, like, you know, where she's
Mm.
whatever doing the spelunking, and then she finds like the nest or the grave or that type of thing, she gets possessed. Then there's the interrogation scene where, you know, it shows the hand coming out grabbing her hand turning over, and it's like an amazing like shot. And I was like, there's some really good moments of gold in that film. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just but yeah, I suppose there still is the crap of, like, you know, the Killer Croc stuff is awful, the dead shot, the writing is still pretty poor as well. But like, yeah,
Mm.
I definitely like to see this just as much as I'd like to see the Snyder cut. Like, and
Yeah.
why not? Like, if basically everything is already shot and it doesn't really need to be touched up that much, then just do it. Like, I think.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing, because like this would cost way less to do than the Justice League,
Hmm.
because this was shot and edited and almost ready to go. Like they were almost about to go out with it before they started doing reshoots, like very close to when the movie came out.
Yeah.
So like it'd be very easy for him to do it. And even one of the interesting things that came out with it was someone someone tweeted, or actually when it happened after the Zack Snyder release, the Snyder Cut was announced. David Ayer posted something about the Joker. He posted like an image of the Joker, and then someone tweeted him back, basically someone tweeted him and AT&T, and they were like, oh, what's the chance of getting like a David Ayer cut or something? And apparently like AT&T, which own Warner Brothers, they tweeted back something like, anything is possible with a little magic, and then a picture of the Enchantress. So it's like, wait a minute, so the company that owns the studio is saying that some is like teasing that anything is possible with the director on Twitter. It's like, when you see that, it's kind of like, okay, usually if there's nothing going on, they just don't respond, or they respond something like just being like no.
Yeah.
But like coming out and openly tweeting anything's possible, it's like it would be so cool if it was like the Snyder cut released and the Ayer cut released in the same year. Like if
That'd
they
be
just were
great.
like, you know, screw it, they're both going to be on HBO Max. Get your subscriptions, and we'll see what happens. You know, because even then, you would literally have the two new versions of the Batman and the Suicide Squad with James Gunn coming out the same year. That you would have the Justice League recut coming out and the original Suicide Squad recut coming out. So it'll be I just think that'd be hilarious to see the book come out at the same time, and what would happen. You know.
I suppose that's probably the only spanner in the work for this, is that if the new Suicide Squad is coming out and they release this at the same time and there's just so much hype, people might get super confused about it. So I'd say they're probably
Yeah.
happy with the idea of like, oh, people forget about this. This is a brand new one, rather than like, hey, catch up on what it was beforehand. So, but
Yeah.
like, still, like, I still think they should do it, even if they wait until after the new Suicide Squad comes out, and it's almost like a I suppose like a bonus edition on a DVD type of thing, so they could just release it around the same time. Be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Nice.
Did you enjoy the Mad Max film
I did.
with Tom Hardy?
I did. It was
You
great.
did?
It was very
Yeah,
good.
with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. So apparently, George Miller, the director of that film, is coming back, and he is working on a Furiosa prequel film. So we've heard about this for a long time now,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently he was asked about it recently, and he said that it won't star Charlize Theron because they want to go prequel. They want to go much kind of younger, when she was kind of getting into all this stuff. And there's a rumor that it could be Jodie Comer from Killing Eve, which would be awesome. What's your take on a Furiosa prequel film, and also like not having Charlize Theron in the film?
Yeah, so Furiosa film, amazing, great. That'd be great, because I actually like this world, and it'd be really interesting to see the kind of, I suppose, her character before the point, maybe how she lost her arm, that type of thing could be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought Charlize Theron was amazing in it, even though apparently there was lots of on-set drama between herself and Tom Hardy. So, which kind of
Yeah, they
makes that
didn't get
whole
along.
film's, yeah, that makes that whole sequence and everything that goes along with it even better, I think. I don't understand why they just don't get Charlize Theron though again, because like, unless they want to go like way younger, as in teenage younger, which
Mm,
isn't really what Jodie is either as well. Like,
yeah.
I think she's late 20s. I know Charlize Theron is, I think she's nearly 50, isn't she? Or something like that. But she doesn't look it. Like, she looks quite young. And I think even if you're going to play her maybe 10 years like past her age as well, I think you could totally do that. Like, you know, maybe just have a slightly different hairstyle. So doesn't she have like super duper short hair in the film
Yeah,
as
she
well?
basically
Or
has
is
a
she?
shaved head, yeah,
Yeah, so
essentially.
like even just give her like slightly more hair and that's her younger basically as well, I think. But yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, it just seems like a weird move for me as well. Like obviously Jodie's a good casting for it as well. I haven't really watched
Mm.
much Killing Eve, but like everyone talks
Yeah. Oh
like
man,
just about
she's
everyone in this. But
incredible in Killing Eve.
yeah, but yeah, like I'm pretty excited to go back and see The World, and if it's Miller that's directing it as well, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. So yeah, like yeah, I've no qualms about it other than the fact that I'd rather Charlize Theron come back. But sure, listen,
Yeah.
you know, it's not as if we're replacing her with a bad actress, so you know, could be good.
Yeah, and based on the first Mad Max movie, I'm sure George Miller's going to come back and just like build everything again and go out to a desert and actually shoot this the way he shot
We'll
the
see.
first one.
That's it. Like maybe this might take 6 years to actually make or something. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Charlize Theron's like, I can't do that. It's not going to age out of the
Yeah.
role.
So on our Instagram page, we have 3 very popular topics. Whenever we post about Batman, the Snyder Cut, people lose their mind. So we're going to be posting like crazy about that for the next while. Apologies. Whenever we post about Kevin Smith, people seem to love Kevin Smith on our page.
Everyone loves Kevin Smith. I
Love Kevin Smith. And then outside of that, the third one is always something to do with Christopher Nolan. People just love Christopher Nolan. And we have this week got I don't know if it's the final trailer, but it's definitely the longest trailer we've got so far for Tenet, which still seems to be on track for coming out in July 17th and being like the big blockbuster that you come back to the cinemas for when they start opening again.
Yeah.
But this trailer this week, this movie I just can't wait for it. Like it looks like the perfect mix between like an Inception with Christopher Nolan and like a little bit of something different that we've never seen before. It's this weird sci-fi vibe. Like even I get that it's like time travel-esque, but like it's not really time travel because it's almost like you're controlling time while you're within time, and like you're going backwards in time while in the middle of a fight sequence, and it's like I just can't wrap my head around the physics of it.
Yeah.
Because clearly it's not realistic, but like, how does it work when you're fighting someone backwards in time?
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah, like where does it end? Is it a thing where, in these set moments, it's, end back to the start and then it starts again the way it ended or something along those lines? Because like it seems that I just thought, oh, this might be something where there's just pockets of it happening and they have to kind of live through it while it happens. But it seems like more people are aware of it and it can be controlled, because in the trailer they do that thing where he essentially shoots the bullet backwards and he catches the bullet almost, and it's like, and the guys explain to him that he's like catching the bullet. So it's like, oh, so it's not like a phenomenon, it's more of a thing that they can control, kind of. I don't know, like it's so Christopher Nolan. I love it. Like this does remind me of Inception, because more so than we'll say, the Dark Knight movies and stuff like that, and even Interstellar as well, where there's big high concepts, but it didn't have the same kind of mind-bending weirdness as this film has, in the same way that Inception has. So like there'll be lots of questions, there's going to be lots of explainer videos out there as soon as the movie arrives to how this works and what actually happens with it. But like I just love that there's a director out there who takes these giant leaps and risks, and then like it completely pays off. Like it's such an occasion when a Christopher Nolan movie comes out, and especially one that deals with like the high level of sci-fi that he does. So I could not be more excited about this. And this trailer, I don't think it gave me much more than what the other ones did. It's still the same taste of everything, and I'm happy with that, because I am afraid sometimes that say if I see trailer 1, 2 and 3 or whatever, and I get to trailer 3, I've seen too much of it. But I don't really ever feel like that with Nolan films. It feels like it's the same sequences, but we got a little bit more and a slight more of an explainer, i.e. people realizing you can control this thing, maybe, I don't know.
And even it's kind of cool, and I've seen even Robert Pattinson's character a little bit more in this trailer, and like how he talks and how he kind of carries himself. And so like I can't wait to see what Robert Pattinson and John David Washington are kind of like together on screen, because it looks like they kind of have a cool chemistry, especially at the end of the trailer where they're talking about the airplane thing, where it's like, oh, I don't want to crash an airplane, but I want to like I want to crash it on the ground or something. I can't remember exactly what the line was.
It was something like, it's like, I'm not that dramatic, I don't want to crash it out of the sky. And then there's like you crashed and it's like, that's still quite dramatic. And, there's a bit of fun and levity to it. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I think this will be one of the first big budget movies with like Robert Pattinson in it that people have seen,
Yeah.
because it's like since Twilight he's been in a lot of indie movies, so like a lot of people haven't seen those films, and like he's amazing in a lot of those films, and he's set up to be like a Batman type character in one of them in particular. So it'll be curious now to see when people see him in this, if that's going to make people more pumped and excited to see him as Batman, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely think it will, because I think there's so many people that are still super on the fence for that.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in this.
And it's completely crazy, because I think anyone who's like living him up to will say they like the Dark Knight trilogy Batmans as well. Like, you know, if you're talking about like an absolute like peak level actor, he's definitely there. Like, you know, so, and especially even in recent years, like movies like The Lighthouse, he's just so good in, you know what I mean? So I can't wait. It's gonna be good.
Okay, Lorcan, it's time to name your favorite character. You love Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. We both love Spider-Man. Okay, they're gonna get we're getting a spin-off movie, another spin-off movie for a Spider-Man character, because Sony are just crazy to build out this world. What character are we gonna get? Name your favorite character.
My favorite of all time.
Your favorite Spider-Man spin-off character. If you were gonna see a movie, who would you like to see as the lead? We already have Venom, and we already have Morbius, Jared Leto.
Let's see. I'm gonna pick a super well-known character that I think everyone can resonate with. Like, one of those really big billboard ones. You know, I don't want your Shocker. Exactly. I don't want your Scorpion. I'm gonna say Madam Web.
Yes. The elderly woman who has to sit in the chair all the time, the big spider chair, the one that she can never step out of, who's kind of this weird interdimensional being that never even had her own comic solo run, I don't think. But Sony apparently want to develop a movie on this character.
What are they doing? What are they doing over there?
What is going on over there? Yeah.
Like, I think this could have been like, I feel like, do you remember when the leaks came out and then they had like the Aunt May spin-off? Maybe that was tying into the idea of Madam Web, where she was going to become Madam Web, but like because they saw an old woman in a chair, not the fact that she's an interdimensional character or anything along those lines. They're like, old woman Spider-Man. And I guarantee that's how they pivoted. And they're like, well, we already have this script, so let's just use it. Yeah,
we already have this Aunt May script. Let's just change it into a Madam Web script instead.
Yeah, they kind of look alike, don't they? No, this is no, like, you know, if people haven't read a Spider-Man comic ever, and like even if you've read a lot of them, you know, you probably have not come across Madam Web. And the only reason I remember Madam Web was from the old Spider-Man TV show, the animated series, and even then it was kind of like minimal. So like, how and why they pulled this one out? Like, if they want to do a female-led kind of one, they could have done Silk, or they could have done, you know, Spider-Gwen, which is like one of the biggest things like out there right now. Like, Madam Web is such or Spider-Woman. Yeah, Silk was the one that they kind of talked about for the longest period of time, but I suppose they wanted an anti-hero. But then even then, there's lots of those. Like, you know, do a Black Cat or something like that. Don't do Madam Web.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like, this is the thing that I think like studios, if they end up getting a bad rap for it, because like obviously there's so many movies that every like studio has in development, but for some reason Sony just seem to spill the beans on everything, unless it's them just being like, hey, how about we get a rumor going that we're doing this movie and see what the reaction is, and if people think we're stupid, then we just won't do it. And they just keep doing that, and people keep saying you're stupid, but they keep developing these ridiculous movies, and then they never announce it, like, oh, this is what we're working on, so you can have an idea of it, and then not be speculating about how absolutely ridiculous this movie. Like, if they come out and they were like, yes, look, we're trying to develop this movie, here's roughly what it's going to look like, or what the character is going to be, you know, at least then you can be like, okay, well, they're doing this like Madam Web movie, but they're actually going to make her much younger, they're going to make her physically fit, she's going to be fit to do battle or something. Whereas like at the minute, like Madam Web is a side character in every story she's in the comics, you know. So it just seems like we own Spider-Man, so let's just pull anything from his like side characters or whatever.
But it's not as if they don't have an amazing rogue gallery or anything along those lines, or other Spider-Man that people love, or other main Spider-Man characters that they couldn't just dive into. You know, this is such an out there pick, like, you know. And Sony are just strange when it comes to these type of things. Like, why wouldn't they just go like, listen, we're basically after doing Into the Spider-Verse where we featured all these weird Spider-Men. Let's just not revisit any of that at all, and let's invest money into Madam Web. You know, it's just such a strange thing. And I think you're totally right. I think they have a couple of ideas on the table, and they've gotten like interns or something like that to dredge up kind of like characters that aren't as well known, and going like, right, what can we do with these? And then they're filtering out to the public to see what people think of that. But like, it's such an odd one. And like, it's not even like, if this was a Marvel, I'd be like, oh, this is an odd choice, you know, but like, I'm sure they're going to knock it out of the park, you know, but when it's Sony, I'm like, no, this is going to be awful. Like, it's going to be Morbius, but worse. You know, and they're going to cast like Angelina Jolie or something like that as well, like another giant A-lister name as well for it, who's just going to phone it in, to be honest with you. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think you do either as well, by the sounds of things.
This is legitimately one of the very few like Marvel-based movies that would come out that I would not be interested in going to see at all.
Between like, this and Morbius.
I'm almost definitely not going to see Morbius in cinema unless we do it to like do a review on it or something. But if we weren't going to do a review on it, I would not go and see it. And Venom 2, to be honest, unless it gets great reviews, I probably won't want to go and see that either, because I didn't enjoy the first one.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's true though. Sony, they've such a great, and I know obviously now they've got the deal with Marvel, so a lot of the good characters are going to be maybe used in the MCU or whatever, but like, there's still better characters than Madam Web to make a movie on. Like, unless they're going to do Madam Web Into the Spider-Verse type thing where you have other characters coming into it and she's in the middle of it all. Something like that, maybe, yes, but yeah, I don't know.
No.
It just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. Not
TV news, Lorcan. TV and TV news. Let's get away from that awful bit of news. Would you believe it? Another week and more Mandalorian casting. This just seems to be like literally every week.
This show is just going to be cameos. That's all the show is going to be. Hey, remember this guy from Rebels? Hey, remember this guy from Clone Wars? You know, and he's like, no, exactly, I'm not aware of these properties because I'm living in them.
So Timothy Olyphant was cast in Mandalorian season 2. He's probably not going to have a big part. I don't think he's going to be a major role in it. But the rumor is that he's playing a character that is going to be wearing Boba Fett's armor. And so far, we don't know of anyone that in the animated series or anything, but what we do know is that in the Aftermath novel, so this is a trilogy of books that they released kind of once Disney started kind of publishing books and stuff, there's a character in that trilogy called Cobb Vanth. And he is basically this guy that becomes like a self-appointed sheriff in like a part of Tatooine after Jabba the Hutt dies and everything at the end of Jedi. And so basically he's a self-appointed sheriff, and he's wearing armor that is described very similar to Boba Fett's armor, because obviously Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit and everything on Tatooine. So it's it's in the book. It's not said that he's wearing Boba Fett's armor, but it's heavily implied that he's wearing Boba Fett's armor. And then now in this rumor coming out, it's said that he's going to be wearing Boba Fett's armor, but he's obviously not playing Boba Fett. So putting two and two together, it seems like he's definitely going to be playing that character. And if you're going to get someone to play a sheriff in like a Western type village in space, Timothy Olyphant is a pretty good casting for that role, I would say.
Yeah, and like I think I know how this is gonna like play out. I feel like this role is gonna be like, if we do whatever 8 episodes, one of them, and if Boba Fett's gonna be a big, I suppose, part in, you know, the Mandalorian moving forward, what they might do is do like a flashback episode to explain how Boba Fett like kind of made it out of the Sarlacc pit. So something like, you know, he was whatever, gobbled up by the Sarlacc pit, and he was gobbled up by the Sarlacc pit, and then, you know, for some reason his like armor was basically out in the desert. This guy picks it up, or maybe finds Boba Fett out there as well, strips the armor, and it's something like Boba Fett's, I don't know, coming back for redemption without any of his fancy gadgets, and he goes into the town and he has to take down the sheriff basically to get his armor. And it might be like a flashback episode to like showcase how much of a badass Boba Fett is, because in the films and everything that we've seen so far, he's not that much of a badass at all.
He looks badass,
but he looks badass. So they might want to just establish that he's not like an absolute klutz, which it is. I won't get gobbled up by anything. So like, this could be good, or they could just do a whole thing where like he just looks his way back into getting his armor again and falls onto a ship and then makes it out of Tatooine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it could be interesting as well. Like, but yeah, like this is gonna be fun. Like I am looking forward to the Mandalorian, but I feel like I'm saying this in every episode we do so far, that there's too much going on right now. And I kind of hope we don't hear any more about castings, because if we have like Ahsoka in it as well, and then we have Boba Fett, and then we have this other side character in things as well, that there's just a lot going on. And it's great to have all the stars, but I just don't want it to turn into, hey, this is the jumping off point for maybe 6 other pilots that we're going to do.
Yeah. But one of the things that I do like about this though is that like these are all characters that you're probably going to have in a series anyway. Like let's say we had that episode of Mandalorian where he goes and parks up in Tatooine, and then he goes and does a mission, and he leaves it with this like that the character that looked like Ripley that was like mining his ship or whatever. So if you have like episodes where instead of just a random no one character that we don't know, it's like, oh hey, he actually met this character from the novel that you read like 2 years ago. It seems that that's kind of what
a bit more world building, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. They're kind of tying stuff together a little bit better than, definitely better than what the movies have done, because it's more like they're not like, oh, let's bring in this character and bring in that character and bring in this character. Like if they're writing it in a way that like, oh, and then he stops in this town, and it's like, oh well, what if that's where this character is? We know this character from the novels, like they live in that town, so why not just have that person meet that person for like, I don't know, 1 episode and then kind of move on to something else? Because it's just a little bit like where it just makes it feel more like the world that you've been, if you're invested in everything, it feels more like it's all interconnected. And then if you're not invested in everything, you're not missing out because it's only part of that story in the episode you watch. You know, you don't need to know his whole story from the books and the novels or whatever to get it. It's just like, oh, he's a character, here's what he does, and now he's gone, you know?
Yeah, fair enough.
So I kind of like, I definitely feel like that's kind of the route that they're kind of going with. I hope that's the route they're going with, like you said. And it's not just like, oh, here he is, and now build him up for his own thing, and then build her up for her own thing, and then kind of spinning off. But speaking of spin-offs, there is a rumor, and you're going to love this. I'm actually very excited about this if it's true. But there is a rumor that Ahsoka is also going to show up in the Obi-Wan series. So, like, we know Deborah Chow, that directed an episode in season 1, is directing the Obi-Wan series. So there's a rumor that she's going to show up in that series as well, which obviously is going to take place much further back in time. So it'll be a younger version of Ahsoka, but they can probably cast the same person because it doesn't really look like she ages that much. So you could probably cast the same person, age them up and age them down. But then there's also a rumor that this is kind of going to spin off into another Ahsoka series, like a live action Ahsoka series.
I'm all down with that. Like, I know I said I don't like spin-offs, but I love Ahsoka as a character, and like like I just want like a Jedi focused one would be great. And like I know she's not really a Jedi, she's a grey Jedi, or kind of, you know, I suppose she's nothing really as well for a while, but like it'd be so interesting to see, depending on like what level that goes for. Like, does it go all the way up until just after Rebels, where, you know, it's her and I can't think of the character's name, the other Mandalorian girl from Rebels. But basically Sabine, and they're looking for Ezra in the kind of outer reaches as well, or something like, you know, like that could be really fun and interesting as well. So like, I'm definitely excited to see more Ahsoka anyway, basically. So I'll take that.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was saying last week, whereas I hope they don't bring her into live action and then put it back to animated, because obviously we hear that they're working on an animated series as well. So this is exciting to me that they're potentially spinning it off into a live action series again, which would be just so great to see. And I'm so curious, because if the more characters they start bringing in this time period, like characters like Ahsoka and characters that are Jedis, are interested in Jedi artifacts or the Mandalorian blade or whatever, the more of that comes into it, the more it's like, well, you know who else is running around at this time period? Like a little guy called Luke Skywalker is running around building a little Jedi Academy. So like, I'm not saying, absolutely, it would be super weird to see like Mark Hamill come back and be de-aged or anybody else come in to play like a young Luke Skywalker. Would just be, even Sebastian Stan, like we've heard people comparing them because they look very similar. Seeing anyone else do it would be super weird, and I don't think they'd ever do that.
I don't think they'd do it either. I think I think they definitely hint towards it, and then maybe if there was
that's what I mean. Like, I feel like
show it from a distance or something like that. You know, to be tasteful about it.
Yeah, I feel like there has, like, the more of that kind of lore they bring in, and I'm all for getting away from the original stuff and just doing new things. But the more they're in that time period and the more they're talking about this kind of stuff, people have to start talking about, like, oh, remember that Skywalker guy? Like, he has to be brought up somewhere, you know? So I'll be curious just to see, like, if they start, like, drip feeding that a little bit into like
Yeah.
future seasons or how it comes up. Another series that is coming out for season 2 on Netflix in July. You loved the first season of it. I
Hmm.
personally wasn't a big fan, but I still kind of liked it. Is Umbrella Academy Series 2.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, and I actually love the trailer. The trailer's like basically an homage to like my favorite scene in the first season. I think it's episode. I think it's the yeah, it's the ending kind of shot of the first episode of season 1 where they do I think we're alone now, and they basically all do like a dance basically in each individual part of the room, and it's
Mm.
so good. But they basically recorded, obviously because they're all in quarantine at the minute, they recorded their kind of scenes from that as they were to just announce that the show is coming back. I'm a massive fan of this show. Like I think it's great, and the comics also pretty good. The comics not incredible,
Mm.
but like I love all the characters in this as well. I think the show is incredibly well cast. So yeah, like I'm definitely interested to see what they do. I'm trying to remember how the show ended. Like again, I don't want to put any spoilers in as well, but I can't remember if the show followed what the comics did or not as well. Because I know at the end, Ellen Page again, like try skip ahead 20 seconds for spoilers. So I'll give 1 second. But where Ellen Page's character basically she learns her powers and she becomes like I think it's the white violin or something like that, where she blows up the world or ends the world or something along those lines. I can't remember if they saved it there or not, or if that still happened.
Mm.
I'm definitely have to go back and watch like the end episode as well. But I really love that show, and I'm dead excited to have it back.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
I was just gonna ask, like, is it set up, like, was it set up for a season 2, or is it like, oh, it's
yeah.
popular, we're gonna do a season 2? Like, what way did it end?
As far as I remember, it was set up for season 2, but I can't remember
Okay.
if the way they ended it was the kind of apocalyptic one where it's established in the first episode that basically something happens that ends the world in
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
12 days from where they are, and
Mm.
yeah, it's
Trying
like
to figure it
implied
out.
that that's happened. So I can't remember if they save the world or if it still ends and then they have to kind of move. No, well, it obviously doesn't end because they die in that
Yeah.
one. So yeah, they might save it and it kind of moves forward, but the time stream or the time travel type aspect of it, I think, was
Yeah.
broken towards the end where he killed everyone who was involved or something along those lines. And like maybe it's like all new ground moving forward, but it was definitely set up for another season anyway. And yeah, I'm just excited to see the characters again. Like I love like there's 3 of the characters in particular I think are fantastic. So yeah, it's good to see it back.
Yeah. That'll be exciting to see. I actually think I might go back and like watch the season finale and then watch the
Yeah.
new season when it comes out just to see what it's like.
I think I'm definitely going to have to do that because I really
Yeah.
don't remember the end of that
Yeah.
season.
And then the last bit of news, we'll get on to some gaming news before we get into some random
Mhm.
recommendations. And this one is just awesome, and I cannot wait for. We got some gameplay footage for The
Mhm.
Last of Us 2. It's just an 8-minute clip, and kind of similar to Ghost of Tsushima the week before, where
Mhm.
they released kind of like a little bit of gameplay, and the producers kind of talking about how they put the game together, what they're looking for with it. And I honestly, I seen the 8-minute video, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch this because I want to go in completely dry. But
Yeah.
just like I stayed away for like an hour, and then I was like, no, I gotta watch it. I gotta see what they're talking about. And this gameplay video is really really cool because the games developers kind of go through the difference in terms of like in the first game you played as Joel, who is a bit of a bigger character, a bit of a
Mhm.
brute, wasn't as fast or as nimble. Whereas in this game you're playing as Ellie, so you're
Yeah.
a lot more nimble, you're a lot faster. You can jump now. There's a jump mechanic in it, which there wasn't in the
Mhm.
first one. And just some of the gameplay aspects to kind of keep you like how to get around the world and how to like keep yourself safe and how like
Mhm.
the combat mechanics. It looks really really cool and really interesting how they're kind of linking the different game mechanics into the gameplay of it.
Yeah, and like there was sections of the first Last of Us as well where you played as Ellie, and then I think in the DLC you played as Ellie for a while as well. But like again, the gameplay was only slightly different because it was kind of implied that you were smaller and you were kind of more nimble in the way you walked around, and there was no kind
Mm.
of brute attack in the same way that you would have with Joel. So it seems similar to that, but it's kind of like a mesh between what both of those were. So as you
Yeah.
mentioned before, the big thing that stood out for me was the jumping mechanic because it was
Mm.
something that when I went back to play this game like a couple of months ago, I forgot there is no jumping mechanic, and it's really weird seeing that because every game seems to have some form of jumping in
Yeah.
it, and this one doesn't as well. But the thing that really stands out to me is not so much how much different it looks, but how similar it is in terms of how it flows, which isn't a bad thing because the game was one of my favorite games of all time. But it's all
Mm.
the little things that Naughty Dog do, like when they were going through the world and the way Ellie kind of moves around, and if you turn her at an angle when she runs, it's kind of like a run sidewards, but it doesn't seem as fluid, and she's kind of like falling a little bit, or if you're, crouching around and you're trying to grab something, it's the way the hand kind of like moves around before it grabs something properly.
Yeah.
It's like all the little things that as soon as you look at you, it's just like the attention to detail that Naughty Dogs gives these games is just phenomenal. And it just got me so excited to the point where I watched a bit of it, then I skipped on, and then I didn't want to watch anymore. And then I remembered all the spoilers, and then I was like, I'm going to look at the comment section. So I was like, I don't want to do that. No, I didn't want to do that. But it was basically in my head that I was like, I'm going to like automatically look down there and see something like as a top comment or something like that, because it still hasn't been spoiled for me, like strangely enough, which is mad. And I can't believe it hasn't yet as well. We're only like a couple of weeks out from it. Is it like 2 weeks out now?
It's about I think it's the 19th of June, so
about a month out then.
About a month out now. But one of the things that stood out to me when they were showing the gameplay was, so obviously now with Ellie you can crouch, but you can also just go fully prone and down and kind of crawl through the grass, which can kind of hide for you. You can go under vehicles, and then obviously when the guy's looking for you or walking around, like if you stay under the one vehicle long enough, kind of like the alien mechanic in the Alien Isolation game, it's like the longer you stay in one place, the more chance they have of finding you. It's not like they're just going to never look under a car. Like if you're under a car and they look long enough, they're going to look under the car, they're going to find you, and they're going to drag you out and start attacking you. So different kind of gameplay mechanics like that. And one of the cool things was that like when you're prone and you're lying and you're crawling, you can roll over on your back and take out your bow and arrow and fire straight from the ground. Like you never see, like you very maybe in like a shooter game where you're on your like stomach and you can like shoot or you can aim down sight, but like very, very rarely in any kind of third person game can you shoot or fire a weapon while you're crouched or while you're prone, while you're down flat, So it just looked really cool because it was one of those weird things where like the minute it showed, I was like, oh, I don't remember ever doing that in a game before. I don't remember seeing a character like roll like that and shoot like that. It just looked really, really cool. And they talked about how the maps they've kind of developed a map system where when you go into different locations, they kind of have, it's not just like a through way of getting through. It's kind of like you've options and you can do it your own way. And they've made the map to really develop what a real world would be like, but also that it suits your gameplay style as well. So it's not just like, you don't go into it and it doesn't feel like a level. It feels like a world, but the world also can suit the different ways you want to play as well. So obviously that's just game development 101, but it just sounds really cool. And you see the developers like talking about it and the thought that goes into putting it together.
Yeah, like again, the guys in Naughty Dogs are just geniuses. Like anything they do is going to be incredible. And then like the best part about this is the visuals and the story, and like the game itself looks incredible. And like the thing to me is that I suppose it doesn't look a million miles away from the first game, which again is not a bad thing because the game is incredible. But there is sequences where like, the darkness looks just so good. And when it's raining down and, hiding under the cars and stuff like that is just, like I can imagine it's just being a very tense game because as you mentioned before, like if you are, low on health and you're trying to like wait out something or trying to get someone to essentially forget about you, because a lot of games have that AI where if you just kind of stay hidden for, we'll say, about 2 or 3 minutes, they're like, oh, well, I guess nothing happened, even though we have 50 dead bodies or anything. Let's go back to normal. But it doesn't seem like they do that in this as well, which is great because it seems that like, oh no, if like say if I stay here long enough, they're just gonna find me. So it's the idea of like trying to pick it, and like the urgency and the way that gameplay works is just gonna be so good in this. Like I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. We can jump on to some random recommendations. Have you been I keep forgetting about that. Have you been watching anything this week? Or
I watched a few things. I actually watched Solar Opposites, which is
did you? I wanted to get into it. What did you think?
I liked it. It's really weird in that it reminds me of, do you know where you have Family Guy and then there's American Dad? It's
I
like
thought
that.
The exact same thing. So this is Solar Opposites is the same creators, Rick and Morty. And same animator, same voices.
Dan Harmon. So Dan Harmon, who does Community and all those good shows basically as well. He's the only one kind of missing from this piece, or well, not the only one, but like one of the main ones from it as well. But you have like the actual series creator and voice of Rick and Morty, and it has like it's Rick and Morty-esque in that it's still kind of sci-fi driven. There is a kind of a character who's quite Rick-esque, but he still has like lots of flaws, like so there's similarities between both of them, but it's not really the same character. So it's pretty unfair to say it. Like, I know their voice is very similar because he doesn't have a big range when it comes to voicing characters, which in itself is part of the comedy though as well, is that all the characters are quite similar sounding, and it's that whole meta angle to it as well, which is great. And like, I do like the show, but I found myself a few times going like, this concept would have been nailed better in Rick and Morty. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, like, there's some parts to it, like there's an underlying story which is stronger than anything else in the show, and it's basically one of the kind of alien characters shrinks down loads of humans and puts them in his wall, and then that wall develops its own like society essentially as well. Like, it's very Mad Maxy and like, you know, all that sort of thing, and then they develop a hierarchy and like how that world kind of moves forward and stuff like that. And it gets to the point where it's like a side story the whole way through the season, and they get a full episode towards the end, and I thought it was the strongest part of the show. And then some of the other parts are just a little weak, and I felt that, you know, Jason Rowland, the guy who does, or Justin Rowland who does this, I think he needs like a Dan Harmon, and I think that's quite unfair in some parts, but like a lot of it was missing some really strong kind of story beats to it, but there was some good comedy as well. So yeah, it definitely seemed like a more sanitized version in some parts to Rick and Morty, and also a really good time. So I think coming out of it, it was like, you know, there's nothing wrong with American Dad and compared to Family Guy. They're both good shows, but they are different, and one's a little bit more sanitized, and that's kind of what this is as well. Still a great time, and I'm definitely going to watch season 2 when it comes out. But yeah, like, just slightly off, and I kind of wish nearly they got a different voice cast for it, and then I wouldn't have been thinking about it as much, I think.
Yeah, I'd say it's hard to watch it when you're comparing it to Rick and Morty the whole time.
Yeah. And it's hard not to draw comparisons, and I feel bad about it because obviously it is its own thing and it's its own direction and everything, but it's really hard not to compare it, especially if you watch the first episode. There's so many parallels to what Rick and Morty is that it's just hard to like distinguish both of them. Yeah, but it's a good show. Like, definitely watch it.
Yeah. Have you started watching the Mandalorian behind the scenes documentary yet?
I haven't yet. I will watch it, but I've still not watched an episode of it yet.
So they actually, to be honest, the more episodes they release, the more I'm just like, oh, this is very meh, because every episode is just like a round table where it's just to be honest, it's just Jon Favreau talking and people responding to him, and then they respond a little bit, and then he talks over them, and he keeps going on to the story he wanted to tell. So it's like, it's honestly, you should just watch it. It's such an, if you go to watch it and think about it from the point of view of like Jon Favreau won't let people talk, and it's so interesting because he just keeps talking over people. But the last episode, so they had 4 episodes so far, and they had 1 episode in the cast, which is it was good enough. They were just all talking about each other. Like, we know who you are. We don't care about that. But they had an episode in the last one on the technology of it, and this was by far the best episode they've done on the show.
Oh, cool!
Because they were going through what they call, I think it's called the light room. They call it. But it's essentially, have you seen the behind the scenes stuff of how the big LED screens they're using?
Yeah. So it's like a stage with this big wraparound screen.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's phenomenal how that works. So it's like this huge big wraparound screen, and it's got a roof on it that's all LED screen. So they can just put up there whatever the background is, and then they put in a few props and rocks and stuff in the ground so that so the characters can interact with it. But all the actors were like, this is like, first of all, the VFX guys were like, this is how things are going to be done, because it's not that expensive to do, and it's way easier than a green screen because you can get lighting correct, because the lighting that's on the screen is going to reflect off the character's armor, so you don't then need to re-edit over that. Like, you don't have to like edit out the green screen and then re-edit other lighting over it, because that's like, lighting is what always gives away when a CGI shot doesn't look well. So in this, there's like very little CGI, because a lot of it is the background and it's just the CGI blending the two of them together. But it's so cool how they shoot it, because they use a game engine to actually make this work. Yeah. So do you know the way in a video game, when, for anyone that knows like the kind of how the behind the scenes of how like a video game kind of works, when you're a character in a game
and the way you look at something,
the way you look around, the world is developing in front of your eyes, like in milliseconds. So if you turn right, the world is developing as you turn right. If you turn left, the world is developing as you turn left. It's like the old way the video games are made, where like the entire world isn't developed 100% of the time. It's only developed when you look at it, essentially.
It's
So
basically
that's the way
only in your line of sight. So like, say if
yeah.
you think of something like, you know, Grand Theft Auto as well, when you're looking at like the hills, all the stuff in the background, like the ocean and all, doesn't exist until you turn around, and then it like pops in. And that's why if some games aren't rendered correctly, there's the case of textures popping in or something along those lines, where
Yeah.
it takes a little bit longer because the file size is bigger as well. So yeah.
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 But it's really cool because the way they shoot this then is they have their characters on the set and they're like doing their whole thing, but the screen in the background works with the camera. So essentially, as they're moving the camera, the screen is moving around and glitching in the background. So when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's way out of focus and this is glitching or whatever. But when you look through the camera lens, it's seeing exactly what it needs to see to make it look correct in that moment.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
It is so, like, I cannot recommend. Just skip straight to episode 4, the technology episode, and just watch that, because Favreau goes through like how he worked on like Iron Man and like Elf first of all, then Iron Man, then Jungle Book, then The Lion King, and he was like how each one of those experiences was developing the technology better and better and better to get them to this point where he's like, he himself, Kathleen Kennedy, and ILM came together just to be like, okay, here's the idea I have. Is it possible, and can you make it work? And then they all came together, and they were saying that like all the tech is out there already. It's not like they reinvented something new. They just put it all together in the right way to make it work. And that was like the gaming engine was a huge part of what brought it in and made it all work succinctly because of the way that they do that. And it's just hearing them talk about it, it was just like this is the future. This is the way they're going to make shows and stuff like this, where you don't need to spend a fortune on CGI, and your CGI doesn't look crap because you haven't spent a fortune on it, because it's all there. And even the actors on set feel like they're on set. One of the interesting things that Carl Weathers says when he's talking about it is that like he's on set and he's been on CGI sets before where you're surrounded by green screen. And he was like, so there's a part where we'll say 3 actors are on this green screen and we're in the scene together. Each one of us could be imagining a different world around us. Like, we're told what it's going to look like, but in our mind, it's completely different to what's in someone else's mind who's on set with me. Whereas in this, every actor is on the same page because we can see the world and what it's meant to look like, and we can see where the sun is, we can see where the wall is. So it doesn't feel like you're imagining it, and each one of us is on a different page because we're imagining something different. So even from an actor's point of view, he's like, this is game changing. So it's so cool that it came out of this show, and like I can guarantee all the Star Wars shows are going to be shot this way for the next like couple of years going forward.
Definitely watch that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, speaking of bad CGI and bad everything else, really quickly, I watched War of the Worlds, the BBC War of the Worlds. Whatever 3-part. It is awful. Yeah. It is so bad. It is like, and the sad thing is I watched the trailer and it's like a War of the Worlds show, and it's set in like, I think it's set in like 1911, 1912 or 1960, like basically early England as well. And I thought that concept was really cool because there's these super high-tech robots with lasers, you know, that type of thing, like the aliens that come down. And how does that compare against, you know, really not advanced military technology? And it's just never really kind of discussed at all, because like they do manage to bring down like 2 of them as well, but it's not really said how they do it. And then like it's not really explained what happens or anything along those lines. And I can't tell if I missed an episode or not, but like the way the story is wrote is just atrocious. The acting's so bad. Like it is just a mess. I would advise no one to watch this. But like if
that is a rough review.
I'm not even like the worst person talking about it, because I read reviews about it before and I'm like, it still looks good. And like there's parts of it that do look amazing. But the reason it looks good is because they show only about 4 shots of it, and then the rest of it is just like weird melodrama between characters. And the acting is so awful. Like it is really, really bad. And then the aliens look really bad in some parts as well. But then there's some scenes where it shows like the ball crashing to earth or turning into like one of the big robots that walk around, and that's really good. But then everything else is just bad. But yeah, it's an atrocious show. So if that was even remotely on your list, don't even bother. Like it's so bad.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. I wasn't going to check it out, but I'm absolutely not checking it out after that review.
No, I wouldn't give it any satisfaction.
No. Sweet.
Good.
That just about wraps it up for another week.
Nice.
Great. So yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, guys, we hope you did. Give it a like, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on YouTube, which hello YouTube.
Hey.
Definitely please hit that subscribe button and give the video a like. That would be much appreciated. Like we said, it's coming. Actual video content is coming, so we'll get there in a couple of weeks. But yeah, anywhere else, just like if you know anyone that would like the podcast, or if you're enjoying it, just let us know and hit that. I don't know, share, do something. What else?
Do
you meant to
something.
do?
Talk about it. Write a blog. Write a letter.
Write
a letter and post it to someone and say, you got to check out this podcast, and then write the hyperlink down on paper so someone has to type it in. Do that. That's by far the best way to share the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
If anyone is that committed to sharing the podcast, I salute you. I absolutely do. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. So
yeah, stay indoors. Bye.
Oh yeah, don't forget, wash your hands. We have to say
wash your hands. Stay indoors.
Yeah, filthy animals.
Remain indoors.
See you later, guys.
See you, Jamie. Bye.